Hey, so we're back, and this time we're going to take a look at what I did with the power inside this van. So I know that when I'm on the road and I'm doing events, I need to be pretty self-sufficient. I actually always used to travel with a generator, and as I've worked more and more on the van and actually built out some more of the capabilities, I no longer go anywhere with a generator, and I haven't needed to take one for a year to any of my events, whereas I used to always take one and be running it all the time. A lot of that comes from the initial design of the way I wanted to do my power and you know, the capacity, and I'll run through all of that and how I've set it up. So one of the big differences is I do have all my power and stuff underneath my bench seat, and we'll kind of show you all of that. A lot of people, when they're building out vans, they have all their kind of power plant and their batteries up in the back over a wheel well. I didn't want to lose any of that space for storage. When I looked at my bench seat that I was putting in, I realized I had a lot of dead space under there, and I was like, well, that's a perfect place to put my batteries, inverters, and stuff like that. And so we can look at that stuff. When I initially built out the van as well, and if you're building out a van, put as much wire as possible. So even though this is kind of a bare bones on the inside, and you've seen I haven't done a whole lot of woodwork or anything like that, if you need to rerun power after everything is kind of covered back over, it's a massive pain. And so I did make sure I ran way more power than I thought, and I ran it all with 12 gauge. I didn't go anything small because I wanted to make sure that if I wanted to put, you know, a light's going here, but maybe I want to run, you know, a 12-volt outlet or something like that. I wanted to make sure I had all that, and I'll kind of show you each of the power points and where I have the power on the inside. But we'll start off looking at the main kind of power plant inside here and where it gets all the juice from. So it is under my seat here, and so access is pretty easy. This is a knockoff Lagoon table. So these are super nice. They come apart really easy, and I take this off if I'm traveling. And this is my bench seat, and I have a couple of other people sitting here. I usually do just take this table off. It's just comfier for everyone. And then I can just kind of move this out the way. And really, everything then is underneath my bench seat. So we'll push this forward. If you want to come around here and kind of show you the back. I also have a heater under here too. So this is my and I'm going to get 1,000 comments about how unsafe this is, but I promise you it's not. And all this stuff, I've actually used this extensively. I've checked for clearances and heat and all those types of things, but I will kind of talk through that a little bit. This is actually my duct that comes out for my my diesel heater, and so that's under here as well, and we'll look at that as well. So I'll just unclip that so it's off the back of my seat, and basically my seat just simply comes forward like this, and now from underneath here you can kind of see my power, and this actually just unclips and takes out. So if I really wanted to open my whole van back up, this bench seat just pops out in a couple of minutes. It's pretty heavy. So the core is I've got 3 100 amp hour lithium batteries. These guys are from a company called Power Queen, and if you are building a van and you're concerned about weight and all the rest of it and how much the batteries are going to weigh, get lithium batteries. These weigh less than 10 pounds. They are so insanely light. It's probably not even 10 pounds. That's probably like a 6-pound battery. Whereas if that was a lead acid battery, that would be 25, 30 pounds. So I got 3 of them, and they weigh absolutely nothing. When you get these delivered, you'll be like, it's an empty box. There can't be anything in there. They are that light. It's surprising. So these are all put together. We're running them in parallel. So make sure when you do your batteries, you have, you know, your right size cabling. This is super thick cabling. I'm running a 300 watt inverter, a 3000 watt inverter. So you got to make sure you do the math. There's a million different ways to do calculations on cable sizing, length, all those types of things. I'm not a master electrician. my cable work's not that great. I made all these, you know, go and buy yourself a crimping tool and those types of things so you can custom make your lengths to your cables. All this stuff is really, really cheap and worthwhile getting. So my core is these 300 amp hour batteries. So how do I get juice into these guys? I have my solar on the roof. So I have 400 watts of solar on the roof. And then I'm also, when I drive down the road, these guys get charged from my inverter. And there's a couple of weird things about that. And I do it through this Venology little doohickey right here. So this guy can take solar, and it can also take power coming from my alternator, and it'll go up to, I think my alternator is like just 260 amps. So and I'm not pulling that much in when I'm pulling my power from my alternator. It actually pulls 50 amps, and it's kind of weird. If I'm pulling from solar, it only does 20 amps. But I can basically, as I'm driving down the road, these batteries are getting charged all the time. If I'm sitting somewhere, my solar's charging them. So I've not run into an issue. I do regret one thing, and that is I actually start off with a 2000 watt energy inverter, and that actually wasn't, and we'll look at I had a water heater, and it was not going to be strong enough to do my water heating. I have no gas. Everything I have is electric in here for heating and cooking and everything. So I wanted a fairly beefy inverter. Renogy makes a product that is also a 3000 watt inverter that also allows you to hook up to shore power and has a 50 amp charger for batteries. And that's one thing I really regret not doing. If I want to do shore power, and I'll talk about the 110 system, I can actually just plug my 110 system into an extension cord and then plug that in if I have an external source. But what I'm not doing at that point then is charging my batteries from that external source. So if I did it all again, and I probably will do it all again, I would replace this with the Renogy 3000 watt inverter that also has the charge controller built into it as well. So then this would be charging your battery from shore power and giving you 110 power. And then this guy here is giving me charging off my alternator and charging off my solar. I'm not really going to go into the whole layout of this, but if you're ever building out this, once again, 1,000 sites that give you schematics for electrics and how to build it out and all the rest of it. I do highly recommend putting cutoffs on everything. So we've got, this is my cutoff down here. That's from my alternator. You want to be able to isolate every part of your system. This here is my cutoff for my batteries, so I can cut any power off to my batteries. And then I have a third cutoff, which is sitting up here, that shuts off my solar. So, you know, if I'm working on any part of my system, I can shut it off and, you know, you'll get electrocuted. It's, yeah, you do have 12 volt systems, but you're also pulling a lot of amps, and I've also got 110 in my system, and if you touch any of that stuff when it's live, you could short it out or you could damage it. So to tie my 110, which is, you know, people who don't know, 110 is this, regular outlets, and my 12 volt, which is what these guys are, they're generating 12 volt off my battery. I go into a switch panel first. So here I have my fuse box, which I actually built into the wall of the van. I used the space. You can see here in this panel, I have really my, you know, my charge controller recessed into there a little bit. And then I have my fuse panel recessed in there. So these are all my 12 volt circuits here. And I'll show you a couple of them. Label everything so you know what everything is. And then I have two circuits here, which are 110, and then I have a main breaker for where it comes in. And that simply is done by, you know, I've got 12 volt bus bar in here for my 12 volt circuit, and then for my 110 I just basically have extension cord, put a plug on the end, and that goes into my bus bar for my 110, and then this guy plugs directly into my inverter up front. So that gives me all my 110 power like that. And just talking about cabling, if you are doing your 110 cabling, the best way to do it, you need stranded cables. You don't want to use regular kind of like coax, regular like household wiring for a van because it moves. So if you've got some old extension cords, find some like heavy gauge extension cords, cut them down, and then use that for your wiring inside the van. It's sheathed, it's flexible, it's stranded copper, and so all my 110, you can see here my rough behind my wall, this is my 110 wiring. That is all old extension cords that have been cut and stripped and then put into my sockets. So for what I have wired up in here is I have 110 outlets here and one down underneath here. This has a GFI breaker on it, and that is actually, and we'll just look at this after, that's actually running, I've got a water heater back here. So there's a little tiny little hot water heater that's running off electric. And then I have two more outlets behind me. So I can run power from the back of my van, and then I can also pull, I have outlets here sitting on my inverter that I can pull 110 off of that as well. So that's kind of my 110 distribution for running, and that's running, you know, regular appliances, which will draw a lot more power down than your 12 volt stuff. My 12 volt all comes out my panel, and you can see this is one thing I have to go back and do. I didn't run a lot of this stuff in the wall down here. I need to go back and refigure this. I don't like it at all. It kind of comes down here and goes in my wall. I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. You can see this is the factory cabling that Ford has to bring all the electrics from the front of the van to the back of the van. These are pieces of junk. I try to use these as conduit. They don't work very well. But once it goes into here, I have all my electrics run, you know, behind my paneling in my ceiling and behind my panels on my wall. So where I have my 110 is, I have some outlets up here. I have outlets down here, and these are switch controlled that actually control my lighting circuits. I'll show you them. We have some more 110, not 110, sorry, 12 volt up here. And really all my outlets, what I've used is USB 3, and then each one has 12 volt power plug in there as well. Then I have all my lights, which are controlled off that panel at the front, which is, I don't know why people always have a switch somewhere else for lights. All my lights work off a switch that's actually on the light, and I have them all through my ceiling here. So very, you know, if I want to turn this light on, I want to turn it on, I'm right there. I can also control them from my front area down there. I have some more 12 volt here. I've got some more 12 volt back up there, and then I've got some more 12 volt back up there. And so they're really for either working on at the back side of my van, or if I'm in bed charging my phone and those types of things. I have separate power circuit coming up to my Max Air fan, so highly recommended. Get the one that has the remote, right? Super nice. Turn it on. I haven't really talked about condensation in the build. I've never had an issue with condensation. I think one of the issues with, or reasons for that, is it's such a big volume in here, and it's usually just me. I'm never cooking with gas, which usually creates a lot of moisture in the air. But I generally would just crack my window, have my Max Air fan running, keeps me cool, and I've never had any issue with condensation. Yeah, get the one. It's a little bit more money. Highly recommend getting the one with the remote. And so some of the other power things that we have up here, it's my Wilson cell phone booster. That has power, of course, just 12 volt. This is my heater. We'll talk about that a little bit afterwards. This is kind of a third-party controller, so I can see what's coming in and what's going out. So right now you can see my whole system is running at 13-ish volts, which is exactly where it should be. My solar is on right now, and we're pulling in 7.5 amps. We're actually under the trees here, so that's actually pretty good. This is my switch for my inverter. So power that guy up. Now I've got 110 throughout my entire my whole van. And then this is my router. So this basically ties in my cellular service and my Starlink that I got on the roof. And we'll talk about the communications in another video. So that's pretty much it for all the power. If anyone's running a van, one thing that took me a lot of time to figure out was, and I'm using, is, and people talk about this all the time, if you're looking for a live circuit or a way to pull, knowing if your van is on or off for an alternator, you've got these 2 power pins down on the side of your seat here. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which is what and what it does, but you can draw power directly off your battery, and it's the batteries are underneath the driver's seat in this van. But you can get a positive feed, like I want to know when my alternator's on, so I can draw power from it, and that will let me know when to do that. And I can also pull my power for my alternator to charge my batteries from those pins as well. And the other thing that's like a little bit weird with the Renogy and the alternator is I got to figure out how to do this. I need to kind of do a relay switch or something. If you're driving down the road and your solar is turned on, the max the controller will take is 20 amps. So it's going to charge your battery slower. If you disconnect your solar, you can get up to 50 amps of charging on from your alternator. And so what I'll do, which is, if I remember to do it and I've got a pretty dead, something's gone, I'm down to like 20-30% on my batteries and I'm driving down the road, I'll just come up here, flip this switch, turns my solar off, and you'll actually see that right now. We've gone from, I'll turn it back on so we can see that change. I've now gone to drawing 6 amps out of here because I've literally got nothing going in here. If I was to turn my van on right now, this would jump up to pulling in like 30 amps of juice because I'm getting more from my alternator. But look, if we flip this back on and we point it over here, you'll see as I turn my solar back on, and really that's reconnecting my solar panels back into my charge controller. Give it a second, it'll kick in, and this, we should all of a sudden see it go positive. So now we're going green, we're getting positive charge on my battery from solar, so we're good to go there. Final little thing is my lights, and we'll do a nighttime video to show these. These are basically my rear spot, passenger spot, and driver spot. So I'll show you them when it gets dark and we can look at that. So that's it for my electrics. Next one, we'll look at the plumbing, and then we'll kind of wrap up with my last one, doing a quick overview of the communications and the Starlink stuff, because I've had to do some stuff on that and it took me a while to figure that out. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and you'll be able to know when the next few videos come out.